issue of Hobbyhammer, because I am running with the issue rather than episode, Miles. I'm joined by
Issue
Miles,
sounds good.
Co-host. Well, you came up with it last time on the fly.
I always think of these things as sort of like the Citadel Journal, and they were labelled as issues. So I want this to feel like the classic journal where it's kind of run by part-timers, so people aren't getting paid, but it's just fueled by passion.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, we're sort of just professional amateurs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was good content. It was really good content, but it was stuff that could never make it into Warhammer Official. And weirdly enough, flicking through a couple of the old copies, like a lot of the people who went on to work for Games Workshop were doing articles at the time, like Nick Kime. He's the first one that kind of springs to mind. Yeah, the Citadel Journal. I wish we had something similar. I mean, I guess the closest thing we have is Inquisitor 28, that biannual magazine, online magazine that comes out.
Something that's not as polished and sort of company focused. Well, maybe we can step into that gap in the video format.
I don't know. Yes, video format. Yes, I don't want to take any more responsibility. I'm not getting into print media. That's dying. But yes, in video format. That's the vibe I hope to hit.
Yes, because you can also use, if you're listening to this at home, you can obviously be doing whatever you want while doing this. We just go for a nice, relaxed cast. And that means, like reading the Citadel Journal, you can do it while having a shit. So,
Please don't do that.
That was like key.
Please don't do that.
What do you mean? What's wrong with that? That's like key time to be consuming like hobby media.
I got that image in my head now. Like I got this like godlike view of me looking down at myself and another person watching themselves watch this content while doing that.
There's a very sort of Inception-like meta view of the world.
Yeah, I didn't need that image in my head first thing Friday morning either.
Right. Well, moving on from that image for Miles, just to swiftly dust us away from that, what is on the menu for us tonight, Miles?
So for today, we are going to be talking about, how do we want to pitch this? So Warhammer World opening, the Warhammer Fantasy
Day.
Fantasy Day. Sorry, I bundled that. Yeah, Fantasy Day. We're going to be talking about Fantasy Day, where Warhammer World opened up their doors to a sea of hobbyists. I knew friends traveling from America and Australia for this event, so big event. We'll be talking about the follow-up debacle on The End and the Death, Volume 3, talking about what Games Workshop did, the response, and what happened this week. We'll be talking about projects we'll be working on. We're both participating in a Tale of Warlords type-esque collecting challenge, and be updating you on what we're doing there, as well as updating people on what's happening on the Discord and any other business. So we'll be plugging any events we got coming up, anywhere we'll be during the year, and any other craziness that comes up in the course of this issue.
Quality. So we're doing essentially like the brioche sandwich approach again.
I think so, yeah, unless you have scathing things to say about the Warhammer Fantasy Day, yeah. I think that's a good route to go.
No. Well, let's get into that then, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about it, because I wasn't there. Darren Winter was reporter extraordinaire for the Age of Darkness podcast. He goes to all these events. Big lover of fantasy. Big lover of fantasy. And this guy, he was collecting when the miniatures were made of wood. And he had overwhelmingly positive things to say about this event. He really enjoyed it. He was really there. But take me through the blow-by-blow of the day, from the morning, the queue, and the overall experience for me, Max. So what was your experience of the day?
So the queue was... I've got no experience to compare it to, but the queue was sort of... If anyone knows Warhammer World, you've got, like, obviously the front door, and it snakes back round to the staff area, and then back on itself to the gate, and the queue eventually actually ended up leading down the road. So I don't know how that compares to a 40k day, but it felt like people were very excited from the get-go. Like, we was there at... I set off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's only an hour and a half drive. So, we got there very early.
So for context,
like sort of Go on.
Whenever I did open days, so Forge World open days with my friend Aaron, who will not watch this, I know, so go to hell, Aaron. We'd be there physically in the queue at 6, and we'd normally be like the fifth or sixth person there. Especially the Heresy events, they were really, really popular. And yeah, it wouldn't be uncommon to see the line snake around like that. I think it might have been taken a couple of people by surprise, seeing some of the commentary on the queue and how long it took. My friend, who did come over from America, he did sneak in with a couple of influencers. So good for him. You travel all that way, you want a bit of royal treatment, right? All the way from Texas.
Yeah, and it was good for just seeing everyone's excitement about the old world, especially just like getting there at sort of 7:30. We were sort of 70th in the queue. So I'm going to just completely guess that.
Okay, that's decent. Yeah, that's decent.
And just the excitement in the air was very good. Everyone's talking about the old world. We spoke to a few people that both had played 6th edition that we knew previously from 6th edition events last year. So current fantasy players transitioning to the old world, and then we're speaking to Tom off the Merchant Princelings podcast, and he was also excited about the old world, so they'll be covering it a little bit on their cast, and just it was absolutely buzzing, basically, with both people that were picking it back up after not playing fantasy from the death of fantasy.
Yeah.
And also, do you know, it was a good mix of people all excited about this new system to get back into it. So it wasn't everyone, all the 6th players, because I was expecting this a little bit, the 6th players just being entrenched and being like, I'm not playing the old world. But no, it washed away concerns a little bit.
So, Darren mentioned that he didn't have a feeling like this since the Heresy, like the early Heresy weekenders, where I because there's been a long enough gap between the death of the old world and now, kind of the bitterness has ebbed away a little bit, because I was upset by the end of the old world. AOS is a great game system, and I love the miniatures, but there's just something I couldn't quite get over. Oh, this sounds so pathetic. Well, I couldn't quite get over to play the game. You know what I mean? Yeah, because this is toy soldiers. Why should I?
I've been to 3K Chaos Army based on it. I didn't quite video myself burning it in the back garden, but I was like,
yeah. And I don't want to have recriminations against people who enjoy AOS, because it is a good, from the outside looking in, it looks like a great game system and people are having fun, and I'm really happy for them. You know, you could get some kind of enjoyment out of your life, because God knows it's hard enough to come by anyway, but it's just not something I could really engage with. But with the old world coming back, I think that bitterness has ebbed away a little bit. And no matter, it's almost like we're coming to this from different generations. Darren, he comes from a 4th edition background. I think his favorite edition was 6 as well. 8th edition, that was my favorite edition, because that's the most amount I played with it, and that's the most amount of fun I've had with it. But it's nice being able to compare notes back and forth over what they're doing, what's happened before, reminisce, and the world has always been there, right? You could always go back to the source material, you could always go back to the books. But it's different when the company are supporting it. It feels like the game is alive again now.
Yeah, rather than it just being holdouts and reliving the glory days. Is to have an actually supported game, I think, is a really positive thing. And that it was tangible even before going in. So then doors open, everyone rushes in, all the cards sold out within 15 seconds.
Better.
You just couldn't.
I didn't even try.
Yeah, on the shelves, people were just straight in cards, and because they're just the things that you can't get again, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's not too bad. I know it might have been nice to have the cards, but they're things that if I got some cards, great. If I don't, magic spells. Well, if I've only got one set of cards and I've got 2 wizards, and they've each got this, well, I need to then write down anyway that they've both got this spell.
That's
for the
true.
magic items decks, it was only commons and generic magic items. So then I'm probably going to be taking ones off my list as well, so needing to remember what they do. And I'm probably going to be taking the same magic items most times, so I'll just remember what my specific Chaos Lord has. So it was sort of this, well, I was going to get them if I could get them, but it's peripheral.
Yeah, so when they came out on the weekend to buy, I knew the demand would be so high, I probably wouldn't be able to get them, so I just left them. Like you say, like it's a nice little bonus if you do get them. But I remember having the cards from the last edition. Yeah, you'd have one pack, but then you'd have multiple. Yeah, it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah. The setup inside was really good. They had the mountain miniatures or mini wargaming. I can't remember. It was the mountain miniatures guys, but maybe representing mini wargaming.
Yes.
At the back, they were playing like a very large mega battle, essentially, that you could drop in and out of. I'm not a massive fan of mega battles and stuff like that, so didn't bother with it. Right?
Yeah.
More of interest were the smaller tables around where staff members who obviously played the game before were doing intro games. So Brett's Tomb Kings, they had like 4 or 5 tables that you could put your name down for the wait list and come back at the time, play some intro games. That was very good to just get people introduced straight away into the old world. They had play testers around the main tables that were just playing games so people could spectate. Which is a good idea, right? Like just getting people that know how to actually play the game to play larger scale battles.
Yeah.
Then they had, and this was the best bit, they had Full Tilt as a new game system.
Really?
Or not like full system, but like they had full tilt rules.
Hold on, because people might not know what this is. So Full Tilt, as far as like I am aware, was a White Dwarf published mini game where 2 knights would set up either side, a bit like like Knight's Tale, and joust against one another.
Yeah, well, I've got the Knight's Tale music in my head whenever I think about like Full Tilt. So
Heath Ledger taken away from us too soon.
So yeah, before it becomes the Heath Ledger Dirge cast, we were we essentially they were running this at the front, and they've now made it card based, where
that's awesome.
Or like it'll be printable cards because they will be doing this. I asked. They'll be releasing at least to the knowledge of the community team on like a Warhammer community article.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
And it'll be printable cards, is my understanding, where essentially you pick a card and that's your initiative for where you aim at, like shield, head, body. So I basically watched that for a bit and had a great time watching people like do full tilt and fail miserably at rolls. So like, and you pick your knight, and you've got say like the dark knight who might be much better but hasn't got an amount of re-rolls that say the young knight errant might have.
Yeah.
While Miles dies in the background. How are you getting on with your cold, Miles? Because you were
how much detail? How much
on this weekend that I'm describing? We recorded last week's podcast twice actually, and then Miles was immediately struck with illness.
How much detail do you want to go? Like, okay, so the scene from Team America. Yeah, the scene from Team America where he's thrown up in the alley. I did that about 3:00 in the morning. Projectile vomited all over my. Anyway, I'm much better now. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm up. I'm about. I'm ready and raring to go. But I will be coughing every now and again. That's just to give
people a context of while I'm having fun, like watching Full Tilt and being like, yeah, come on, like. Miles is at home doing this, so it gets
my wife's a nurse as well, and when I get sick, I go down hard. Even if it's just a mild cold, I will make it seem like I am dying. I am moments away from dying. And she's actually a palliative care nurse, so she works end of life. So I will get her to do things for me and treat me in exactly the same way as I expect her to treat her patients. And with 2 young children on top of it as well, she's not too accommodating. For a nurse, she's not very nice to sick people, I'll tell you that.
That was essentially the old world rundown. It was like they had up the timeline around all the boards. Now, it wasn't... And this is like the flip side of it, right? And it can only have been built up too much in my head because I've been playing Sith for years. I've been looking forward to this coming out so much. And my desire of fantasy has increased across. It was deserted at 1:30, I would say.
Oh God, really?
Okay. I'm not deserted. There was I'm going to guess 50 people around the main hall. But
it's a big main hall, and that would feel empty.
Everyone bought their shit and then went home and did stuff with their shit rather than having it. There wasn't enough to keep people there. But I would say it was a very successful event.
So what I've seen, so you could... They put on a mega battle. You could play games yourself, like little intro games. I think you could paint a knight on foot as well.
I forgot about this because I didn't do any of it. Right. Go on. So you could paint a knight on foot, yeah. So they had Bretonian foot knights there that I think you could pay £5 or something like that.
Yeah.
To paint one of. And they had the base exchange, which if you took your old bases or circular bases, you could exchange them for new sizes.
Oh, that's the bit that I feel like I missed out on the most, because I'm organising this Chaos Army. It's the miniatures from AOS, and I'm figuring out exactly how many bases oh my God, that would have been so useful.
Right. So the sort of downside of it was they'd only let you exchange 10 bases, and there was no new sizes in those bases.
Oh, so not so good. Okay.
You could only exchange for 25s or 25 by 50s. Basically anything they pulled out of old kits that still work.
Right.
There was no 30 by 30s, which is what I would be desperate to get my hands on for my Chaos Army.
Yeah.
And you could only exchange 10 bases, which just struck me as odd.
Okay, yeah, perhaps supply. It's a nice little extra they throw on top.
Yeah, it's just the thing that they did. It's cool.
Were any of the writers or designers of the book there, any of the artists who've worked on the new miniatures available to speak to, like in the old Forge World Weekenders?
Not actively. It was all community event team. So there was a few people about to speak to, but there wasn't direct contact with the teams that had been involved.
Right.
It was all through the lens of the community team and the Warhammer World event staff, which is
the spin doctors.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's as gone are the days of the Heresy Weekender where they just sat people the designers down behind a desk and everyone just walked up to them, asked them ridiculous questions.
Thinking back, I wish I would have talked to Alan Bly a lot more, but I remember very acutely whenever I was in front of Alan Bly, I couldn't think of a single goddamn thing to ask him, because I felt like whatever I'd ask him would be trite, and I'd just end up saying stupid things what's your favourite colour?
I asked him a ridiculous question of, can predators in an armoured company take a pintle mounted weapon? And it was just the most mundane question that they've just not been flying on.
And
they're just
looking back,
why did I ask that?
Inferno had just been released, and I had the book and I wanted him to sign it. I gave him over the book and he said you got to remove the cover. I was like, oh, could you do it for me? It would be thinking it's going to be such an honour for you to open it. But he kind of rolled his eyes, sighed okay, right, okay, shh. He did with one of his nails was longer than any. As he ripped, Since then, I can't talk to him anymore after this, because he's going to think I'm the guy who just asked him to. I got the weirdo who gets me to open things. Yeah.
I can see that.
Tit.
But yeah.
Tit.
So hopefully everyone is basking in shared pain over being.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good day. It's actually reformed. I really didn't like the Bretonian Foot Knights, you might remember. And
I share a very similar view to you as well.
Now, seeing them in person they're much better. They're still not the aesthetic that I want for my army, but they are actually. I'm no longer like, oh, these are rubbish and don't fit the range.
So is it a case of having seen the kit in person, you see what you can make of them rather than what they are?
Yes, because it's obviously painted with an heavy metal style for the pitches online.
Yeah.
When in person, and this happens with lots of models, right? It's
me
like
too.
You see it for what it is, and rather than being these big World of Warcrafty style bulky dudes that are like sort of too heroic proportions. Do you know, like when you see some fantasy miniatures or models, like the pauldrons are like, it's even past the camera if you're watching this on video. Like the pauldrons are out here, and it just looks ridiculous. Whereas actually they were sort of more normal proportions in heroic scale in the right ways. Yeah. So it assuaged my fears. I might do a couple of units of Foot Knights potentially. Do you know
and looking at them, it seems like they're very it's like squash, like it's very concentrated. But if you took that kit and maybe spread them out over an entire army, they'd look a lot more natural.
Yeah, and I think it might fit nicely into my theme of, do you know, like what, as you say, one kit, and then I just do my heroes that are on foot out of that kit. Because then that would give the contrast in sort of like post-Camelot Arthurian rather than pre-Camelot, like Dark Age Arthurian. So it reformed. I think that was the biggest bit for me, was it reformed an entire unit core to my army.
So overall, the day, success? Big hit?
Yeah, like, I think it was good. As I say, it showed like a tangible excitement for the old world that I think was important. Like they're using this as, like the Badab War it was for Heresy. It's just a springboard launching platform is what I've heard. And seeing like support for the old world from the like us gamers and painters and hobbyists, that's needed to get the kits. Like, do you know, a revamping of the old kits that we've not seen at the moment, really? The reason for the lack of revamp is they need to see support before they can invest so heavily into this system.
That's understandable.
Yeah, so I think it was successful.
I mean, from the outside looking in, I am incredibly jealous. I missed out on I think it might be one of those events people talk about in the future, like, like whenever we talk about the Horus Heresy weekenders, like, oh, were you there? Like, which one did you come to first? Like the first, second, third? Like, if you were there at the first, I think that's going to be sort of like an informal badge of hobby honor. Like, yeah, I was there, the first one.
I'll put it on my email too, shall I?
Yeah, exactly. Like, create a pin for yourself, or like a hat, a cool hat. We'll be selling merch soon. #HobbyHammer.
I was there the day the old world came back.
I was there the day the old world lived. Yeah. So the next one I definitely do want to attend. I'm hoping that I hope we have greater access to the artists, the designers, the lead writer of this, just to ask them questions. Because this entire I've had a chance to look at the book now. The main rule book, it feels like a love letter to old fantasy. Not just any particular edition. It's all the editions. I mean, even through like the artwork. I was looking at the like bio tapestry of design on top of the timeline of the world. Like, you have older kits, like the old Blackguard kit from like the third or fourth, second generation metal of it. You've seen like older miniatures. And they do have a tendency, like whatever the new miniature is out, say for Blackguard, for example, that becomes the archetype of that unit. And that it's always been that in the artwork going forward, it's always been that. But seeing older representations of the models in there, and the fact they're bringing back classic miniatures, classic molds, so they're going to fish them out, repairing them, this feels like it's driven by passion. As well as the bottom line, obviously, because we'll be talking about that a bit more in depth next. But this does it comes across as a passion-filled project from me looking from the inside out. Yeah, and I'm just delighted that it's taken off in the way that it has. The enthusiasm hasn't petered out. It seems to be gathering momentum. As far as I can, from watching battle reports on your channel, the game seems good. It seems like it could be scaled up pretty easily. It's recognizable to me, being like a 6th, 7th, 8th edition player. Just overall, overwhelmingly positive, and it's lovely to be able. Yeah, weirdly, after the event, I was just walking around with like a stupid grin on my face, thinking about old world lists and armies and painting composition, and just thinking about the world again. It's just overwhelmingly positive, everything that's surrounding this at the moment, and it's not often Games Workshop hit it like this, but credit where credit's due. I think they've done a very good job re-releasing the old world up to this point, and long may it continue.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've heard a lot now in the last week is people getting it, and the worst things that I've heard outside holdouts, outside the truly old groups, is 8th players going, oh, it's got bits of 6th, and it's 8th. Mm-hmm. It's 8th with elements of 6th that were also good. Oh, it's 8th with 6th bits, or 6th with 8th bits. Mm-hmm. And if that's the worst thing that I think is said about a game system, as a player, great. And I think it's, that has been, as you said, a love letter to each edition that people know and love across any person's entry point into the hobby.
Yeah. I mean, the only criticism I could give it, I just wish we had more feedback from the creators of this game, because in White Dwarf, whenever they used to release a game system or a codex, the author would pen a little afterward, or his intentions or his thinking behind the project, why he made certain decisions, and it was nice to understand that.
Yeah, well, so I think this brings us on to expectations, though, doesn't it? And that's, I think that sort of brings us into the old world, not the old world, the End and the Death Part 3. Because
End and the Death. Oh God,
this one is all about expectations. So, do you want to give an update of what happened?
Sure.
Since the last.
Yes, since we last reported, Games Workshop have taken away multiple sales. So sales on a single account for multiple books from across the world, and all in all, they ended up with around 500 excess books from these refunds, which they put up for sale worldwide at 4:00 Wednesday evening, just passed.
Yeah, that's GMT as well. So the Australians got it at 2 a.m.
Yes, yeah. What to say about this? Of course, it was very popular, and the queue system got jammed up again. And so my experience of it was 4:00 GMT. I started queuing around past when it went live. The queue kept stalling. I'm not sure whether they had troubles tracking orders, or whether they would make sure that bots weren't buying up all their inventory. I was about 40 minutes into the process, and a little pop-up came underneath. The book sold out. Okay, it's one of those things, missed out. It's a limited edition copy. It was 500 copies. I haven't seen the same kind of acrimony behind it being scalped this time round as I have last. But still, it's a bitter pill to swallow, considering that I felt like I didn't even have a chance of buying this. But, it's a limited edition, hands up, okay. While it's, you got to give praise to Games Workshop for taking these steps, refunding the issue. I don't think it addresses the core issue of the problem. And this has been the glaring thing that people have been screaming, in some cases, literally, at them. The problem. So if you have a problem, if you have a bucket, right, with a hole in it, how do you solve that issue? Games Workshop's response seems to be, we're just going to keep pouring water in the top to keep it topped up, to keep it full. No, address the core issue. There are a few different ways we can go about making sure everybody has a book. And I think the best solution to this problem is, without knowing any of the logistics or the real time or like any of the practicalities of doing this, open the book for a weekend. Everyone in their time has a nice leisurely time to buy the book, finish their collection. I don't really care if it's signed or not. Just give us access to the printed material, to the actual
like
plush
a
edition
made-to-order
book.
system.
Made to order, yeah, that would solve so many issues. But they seem reluctant to do it. Now, I don't know why. Perhaps it's something to do with the legality of calling it a limited edition and then opening it up like that. I don't know. But to I guess sum up this whole situation, while it's admirable for them to have gone through the steps that they have, they still don't see the core issue, the core problem with this, and that's what's so freaking frustrating.
Yeah, do you know what? You've summed up quite nicely there, I think, past my point. Like, you've taken that into account. So what I was going to say about the expectation was, I think a lot of people thought this was, like, the queue issues were going to be gone, and that would cause them to be able to get, like, a
fair crack. Just a fair crack at it.
Now,
yeah.
Do you know, like, they need to sort these queue issues. And I think I think your solution that you just suggested there is probably the best way of doing it. It's the nicest solution for us as the consumers.
Yes. Yeah.
But expecting the queue system to change in a short amount of time, like a week or anything like that, until they decide to have this large scale change of just entirely reform the system to a made to order or something like that. It's going to be, we're going to have.
But as a counterpoint, as a counterpoint to that, it hasn't just been a week, right? We've been having these issues since the End Times books, which were like
no.
5-6 years ago.
With like the issues have increased massively with this new system. They have it. I'd swear they've increased massively, and
I'd say so.
Approaching the new queuing system again is just they could have never got that reformed in 1 week. Like, I know the actual stock issues is a completely different question entirely. That needs to be something like made to order, because people don't even care how long it takes to get them. I mean, I can buy a normal copy for 17 quid or something like that, read it, and have my completed collection as well. I'll buy 2 books off you, please. Like, literally take my money twice for the same thing.
Yeah.
But the actual queue system, people having bad experience of it, and like, is something that I think it's a juggernaut of a company. They are on a path now with this queue system. It'll take them 6 months a year to get it reformed for the actual queue.
I think it's going to get worse as well, because I've seen, again, I can't corroborate this because it's a screenshot from a friend of scalpers who are targeting Games Workshop. They're throttling the supply in order for them to sell it, and they have planned strategies to roll out sales.
You mean like for how much it costs and when to post and things like that? So I did see
exactly
a screenshot of a Reddit post that was like a specific strategy of all those scalpers.
That's it.
Do this.
Yes, and we can't corroborate. We can't say that this is legit. This could be somebody knocking up on Photoshop. So we have to stress that as a caveat. But seeing the anecdotal evidence of how the queue system was cheated at the beginning, how the queue system is stuttering and faltering in this one, and just seeing the amount of scalpers I think Games Workshop has been targeted by a group of scalpers who are very tech savvy, and they know how to cheat these kind of systems. I think the problem is going to get worse. Games Workshop are going to keep Games Workshop's solution there. Okay, we need to improve the queue system. That's just taking a bigger bucket of water and pouring on top.
Yeah,
it's not addressing the core issue.
It's like insert government when they're just so large, none of them. Did you ever see when like the American government, I can't remember which, like the Senate or something, interviewed, what's he called, the Facebook CEO.
And they didn't have a clue what he was talking about.
They're just asking him, like, so could our children be harmed by Facebook? Not asking the really drilling questions that need to be. And it's like that. It's almost like they don't understand modern technology. And they've got someone that the CEO is giving, you do this to solve the issue. And they've not a clue. So the tech support is like, well, I've got to do that. My boss has told me. The person that actually knows.
Maybe, and like I don't know the ins. I mean, this is part of the thing. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of running a multinational, multi-billion-pound company. I don't. I'm sure it's hard on everyone in there, but I can only judge this as a consumer on the outside looking in. I can only give my experience as a customer, the customer experience of this, and it's. I mean, I'm kind of giving up on even on things like buying Horus Ascended. Like, I need 2 of those for a couple of commissions I'm doing. I've been waiting 2 months for them to come back in stock. Like, even smaller scale. Like, I'm having to find different ways to get these miniatures. Buying them through friends, buying them on Facebook Marketplace, just buying them through other areas to get the materials I need. I don't know. I don't know. I don't, but it's a crappy experience. It's just a really, and it feels like with the cards we were talking about, I knew because of the system they have implemented, I don't have a chance of buying those cards. So I'm not going to even bother. And as long as this problem persists like this, whenever a limited edition comes up, whenever anything in sparse demand comes up, I'm just not going to bother. Because what's the point? They're just going to get scalped.
Yeah, so I think that
was the negative part of the show.
Covers stock issues, and
that was the negative part of the show.
We're not going to buy, like the limited editions, unless limited edition products. The Games Workshop, please take our money. The Beta-garmon book.
Beta-garmon, yes.
Yeah.
Long-awaited campaign.
Thursday, right?
Yeah. Hold on. Long-awaited. Let's bring up the actual link. Beta-garmon. One of these conflicts I didn't really know, well, I still don't know that much about. The first time I heard about this was at a Horus Heresy weekender where Alan Bly was talking about it and how Beta-garmon is... So during the Crusade, Crusade fleets would crash into a system they crash into a system and you'd be faced with one of 2 options. You'd either capitulate and join the Empire, or you'd be smashed and then join the Empire. The Beta-garmon was an empire, a star-faring empire, a rather powerful one, and they rejoined the Empire like that. They put up no resistance. They were joyful.
Was bloodless.
Exactly. Yeah, they were joyful of reconnecting with lost humanity, with Terra. So the Empire, the Imperium got access to like this huge swathe of space, mineral-rich, ore-rich, powerful empire just at a flick of a switch. And it was very well fortified. And it was one of the last destinations, one of the last major space ports or stable warp routes to Terra. So as Horus, if you needed to bring half the legions as well as accompanying Dark Mech and auxiliary troops, you need major ports like this. You need to take these ports. And that's what this book documents, the taking and sundering of Beta-garmon.
Yeah, and so this is something that's covered in the novels, not extensively, but he's got at least one novel about it. And it's essentially... the Mechanicum, and this is spoilers for the years-old book now. So, essentially, the Mechanicum, the Loyalist Mechanicum commit their forces. Is it the Adeptus Mechanicus? No, it's not yet the Adeptus Mechanicus. The Loyalist Mechanicum commit their Titan legions to break the backs of the traitor Titan legions at Beta-garmon. And that's so that they don't have these powerful siege engines able to just take down the walls of Terra in concentrated force. So I'm expecting mass scale battles in here. Like, it would be
Me
good to
too,
see.
yeah. I'm expecting larger scale battles. Maybe a system that incorporates Imperialis and Titanicus alongside your campaign games.
Yeah, because that's something that they directly talked about, actually, is integrating a system between Legions Imperialis and Heresy main into one campaign system. And I think even just subbing in and out games would just work, right? But yeah, some sort of codified set, and here, as you say, might be a real good place for it. Now,
So from the community website, it said the new Onslaught campaign system pits teams of players against each other in an effort to force a decisive battle and claim ultimate victory.
so that is the same system as in Siege of Chthoniya, where you fight a bunch of
Right, okay.
and you get a bonus to a roll to bring about a decisive battle. So from reading that, that's something that I thought, it's probably going to be the same system as Siege of Chthoniya. Now, different in here is going to be this mentioned mortifaction index. And that, I imagine, would just be a different metric of tracking success. It'll be interesting to know how they deal with essentially equal forces. Largely, I've not seen them do a campaign, Games Workshop do a campaign yet, where one side has less points on the field all the time than the other. It's always equal. So what happens, because we know the Loyalists inevitably lose this battle, and it's a Pyrrhic victory for the traitors, but that is what we're playing. We're playing a definite Pyrrhic victory. So how are they going to deal with this known story element and having a decisive battle potentially for the Loyalists that they should lose? And that's tracking victory in a different way, I suppose. I would like to see them have unbalanced points levels within these forces.
Yeah, me too.
And having different, like, sort of strategic and tactical objectives.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Because, I mean, unequal battles, even if you're on the sort of like back foot on the losing side, it's like playing Rorke's Drift, right? The unequal ones can be even more fun than just pitch battles where you outmaneuver your opponent or outfight your opponent. Weirdly enough, I really like the front cover of this. I like the angle which Horus Lupercal has been taken, the picture of that.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was meant to be the prime angle for the. So any miniature that's created has sort of like a prime angle, where it's where you want it to be designed, where you want it to be photographed from. And I mean, looking at pictures of my own Horus, I haven't taken them from this angle. So when I paint another one of these, I'm definitely going to take it from this angle to see. Yeah, looks great.
And it's not a model that I previously felt was, from the angles that I'd seen, it was that much stronger than normal Horus not ascended. Whereas from this angle, like slightly bottom up and with sort of the wading
kind of like pointing
through. Yeah, he's like pointing, but he's like, it looks like he's wading through battle here rather than just like stomping about. Do you know, like there's a purposeful stomp?
Yeah, I really like that. And alongside him, he's going to be joined by Sanguinius and Jacate Khan, which is phenomenal to see because as a long-term Blood Angel player, you have Cygnus Prime, Big Gap, Terror. So it's nice to get another major engagement where they're fighting against Space Marines, because again, that's another thing I want to get involved in the fight. I want to get involved in the battle. I want to fight other Space Marines. Whereas I'm just playing against, like, narratively wise, against demons a lot of the time. But with this, like, I could go up against traitor elements. So and the Khan as well gives him a little bit of something to do. It's that final break in the tide before Terror. How much damage can you cause to the incoming troops before you retreat?
Yes. And it's a really interesting battle. Like, it features lots, obviously most of the traitor legions, if not all, as well as Blood Angels, Mechanicum, as you said, White Scars, and also the Shattered Legions of Black Shield. Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I've always wanted to do a Shattered Legions for a Black Shields force. I've had a couple of goes there. I don't really feel like I've quite got it right. Third time's a charm, maybe.
Yeah. So this is something that came up the other day. Now I've got the Black Shields up from from the actual set, the black and gold ones. Black shields have always been super interesting to me because it's sort of like a forge your own narrative thing, and that's really I'm not that big into Primarchs. They're good for these figures that are away from my game, because as soon as we place other than say like Moloch, where you not Moloch, what are we literally talking about, Beta-garmon. Other Beta-garmon, when you know they're there, it's sort of like, why is this Primarch there? And the opposite of that is like forging your own narrative. Black Shield's perfect for that. Now I'm just trying to why they went for this black and gold scheme, I don't know, because there is a really, really strong Black Shield Marine where they've got like sort of bone armor. He's in book 6, bone armor with like blue swirls around it.
May I introduce you to my Black Shield?
Yeah, go for it while I search for this picture.
So I had a bunch of just Marines left over from different projects. I didn't know. I didn't particularly want to collect any Legion around them. They were a bit of a hodgepodge. Book 6 that came out with the original Black Shield list. I thought I want to create something for it. I originally envisioned these guys as being Terror troops. So a Primarch issued a certain number of gene seed in the creation of these Marines, like these mongrel Marines they gathered up from children from invaded planets, and they sent out to raid shipping lanes and initiate terror attacks to weaken any. It was to weaken both sides of the conflict, to give them a greater advantage later on in the conflict. The scheme was devised to just make it as quick and simple as possible. I wanted a lot of rad weaponry in here, so I did have the idea of the armor kind of this bronzed. It used to be ceramite silver, but it's kind of become bronzed and tainted with the weaponry that they use. I wanted a very heavily weathered, again, mainly just to try stuff out. So that was the genesis of this color scheme, and it looks remarkably similar to the Games Workshop scheme that they took. I'm not saying they took inspiration from me at all, but it would be nice to think. It would be nice to think that maybe one of the artists glanced at some of my work when they were doing a bit of research on Black Shields and maybe brought it in somewhere into their work. Yeah, that's the tangential.
You see, what I
credit.
really want to be, and it's no disrespect to your work, Miles, it looks very good. What I want to be the scheme. So this is the scheme that I actually really want to be the Black Shield scheme. It's like sort of, it is, I suppose, maybe a bronzed armour, like a bit bony, and you might just be able to make out on the screen, it's got these spirals around the studs of the Heresy armour. That's like I don't know, almost a Celtic spiral through things. Or just a geometric pattern, right, that they've come up with off the top, plucked out of their arse. And I just really like it as a not create your own, but like as a completely different than anything else we've seen within Heresy schemes up to now. So yeah, this is the image that sort of did it for me for Black Shields.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the great thing with Black Shields. There is no standardization with them. If you have a color scheme in mind, if you have a collection of Marines, if you want to do something zany with them, you can. It gives you license to create your own thing within this universe. One thing I really hope to see with these Black Shields, the mutability of rules, so you're able to create some really cool combinations because they were never popular. They're never going to be popular. They're a very niche hipster kind of army. So I would like them to keep that sense of like modular ability.
Yeah.
And I want them to bring back the decal sheet, the Black Shield decal sheet, because that thing is amazing.
Yes. Do you know what? Let's not spend more time pulling it up. But if anyone wants to see one of the best decal sheets ever, it's that one. It is definitely that one. And bring back my Krytos transfers while we're at it. Now, so that's going to be done off 2 oaths for the rules, but like until we actually see them, we can't go that far into it. Now, what really interests me about this paragraph there is that your Shattered Legions are going to be able to be mixed with it. Oh, it might be the paragraph before. But that your Shattered Legions are going to be able to be mixed within squads. And that
I
is
missed that.
Absolutely mental sounding. That's not something they did in first edition. It was like the Shattered Legions there. I think maybe your characters could join a squad from a different legion, but the actual individual squad all had to have one rule. So it'd be really interesting to see how the games designers have sort of incorporated the interplays between them. Say, looking at this one, like the Salamanders are going to have -1 strength to plasma and melter weapons and flame, whereas the Raven Guard are going to get, 6 up shrouded versus... So is it going to be you're going to have to allocate at wound stage, or is it going to get both benefits if they're mixed squad? Because obviously the wound stage and then allocate to a model is at a different stage. Is it going to be majority? So yeah, it'd be a really nice...
No idea.
Yeah, complete speculation at this point. But from like a games commentary perspective, it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that sort of stuff.
And I guess to finish off our very brief overview of this, we are going to be seeing rules for Tybalt Mar, for the Black Shield guy. Oh, God, what the hell is his name? That big fella. Indrid Har, the Riven Hound. And we're also going to be seeing the guy without a face.
Horus Axamand.
Horus Axamand, yeah. And normally now when they release rules for miniatures, we see miniatures as well. So I cannot wait to see what Horus Axamand looks like. Oh my God. Like, I hope it's like the original artwork that they did on one of the audio front covers. That would look freaking amazing. Like a big battle sword he's got. Yes.
And then we went into it a lot last time, but the Solar Auxilia are going to be present. And if you want to hear us gush about Solar Auxilia, go back to the last episode if you missed it. I obviously played them quite a lot. Miles, you are like half committing to a force, it seems. In the future, yeah, a few years off down the line, I need to get through other projects. I need to get through the Old World project. So shall we move on to the Old World as a project?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's a nice segue, right? So, Max, where are you with your Old World project?
Well, for mine, I've got my 25 peasants built, and we're just seeing now the peasants rotating with their new banner and Victrix heads and shields. This is something that we talked about last time. I've just been sort of wading through the modelling aspect of them. Yeah. As well as getting my first 6 knights done. So with a new banner and converted musician, because I wanted him to be able to actually blow his horn. So yeah, that's what I've got up to. I'm obviously we're like a week into the time scale now. So I'm about to start undercoating these, and that's where I'm up to. That's the extent of my ability to progress.
Yeah, I mean, so we launched in January. The thing was, okay, declare what you're doing. So you're well ahead of time. In February, I guess we can review it now. In February, you're going to be doing the painting 500 points. Our Warlord of the Month, the January chosen, he has decided to make the secondary objective paint a banner. So if you did want to join along, you can sign up to the Discord. It's completely free. It should be in the description below. Tale of Gamers is at the bottom of that Discord thread. You can join in with a conversation there, post up work in progress, mull over ideas. Alternatively, just hashtag anything you paint with Hobby Hammer. And you're good to go. We'll do a little review every month. We're not doing one this month because it's still early on. I will be posting up a month 1 recap of the Discord members on the website. That should be up in the next few days. So by the time you see this, hopefully it's up already. For my own collection, I have built 10 Chaos Warriors, a few Chaos these dogs. For 35-point unit. Hounds, 35-point unit.
It's just
They
amazing unit.
are very expensive monetarily wise for not much on the tabletop. These miniatures were taken from the Siege of Vrax series of miniatures. There's like an Ogren Overseer that goes alongside them. Amazing set. I've been saving these for a project like this. And my Chaos Lord has been undercoated. So this is the project as it currently stands. Built, undercoated. I'm still waiting for basing to come along. That's why they're on the round basing. And I dare say by the end of February, because it's a short month, I should be able to get the majority of it painted, and I should have the bases
All of it,
by then.
All of it.
All of it.
I'll forgive
I will
you bases,
endeavour.
but all of it
Endeavour Sans bases. Yeah, I mean there's only 10 warriors. These guys. I've got cheeky Spawn in there, but I don't actually own a banner in this initial 500 points, so I'll have to substitute with a Spawn. I hope that's okay, or maybe I'll try and work a little freehand in there.
Give the Spawn a banner.
Give the Spawn a banner. Yeah, I was thinking maybe doing a bit of freehand on the back of this guy, but that's my collection up until this point. Again, getting the motor running. It's starting off small. If you did want to join along, anything on social media, #HobbyHammer, we'll be doing reviews at the end of the month. Anything that you paint beyond this challenge and this we'll be looking at. Okay, I think that's it. Is that an issue?
That's it. That's issue 3.
Issue. Issue 3, done and dusted. Look at that.
Brilliant. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you have enjoyed our ramblings, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, well, not me next time. I'm in Canada. I'm in Canada next time. Yeah, I'm in Canada next time, so you won't be catching me unless we rearrange something. But there should be a special guest on next week's Hobby Hammer for you to enjoy, or Max just rambling on like a goddamn, gibbering on like a madman.
Yes.
Should be fun.
Something like that. Yeah, and we'll catch you next time. Now.